and I'm at the same church that her family's at now too. So
I
she's
know.
just
Are you sick of me yet, Philip? We've
no, I'm
been
not
on
sick of
Zooms a
you,
lot.
but you're gonna
Yeah,
be
no,
sick
I
of
know.
me before long. I'm gonna
Well,
sound like
yeah,
a
no,
broken record.
I know. I knew there was probably some overlap, but I am literally going to multitask. We had to take down our seated risers in my classroom, and now I'm doing the piddly cleanup afterwards. We did that so that we'd have more flat open space to spread
Right.
out. Um,
Hmm.
Not that I'm going to be singing inside to start, but my colleagues will need to use it to do breakouts and cohorting
Exactly.
and stuff. So, but yeah, I'm not surprised there's not many people here yet because I'm feeling very much like I'm one of the only ones returning to in school. So I'm happy, or in person school. So I'm happy
Right.
to hear what other people are doing.
Exactly.
So,
And Rebecca just joined us too. Hi, Rebecca.
Hi, Philip. Thanks for all you're doing.
Oh, happy to be a part of these conversations and facilitate this here. And have you all announced that do you have a new colleague now, or is that still not public yet?
We haven't announced it, but it,
Okay.
it's
Don't say it. It's recording, so don't say
okay.
anything then, yeah.
Thanks for the heads up.
I just know that was going on. So I
Yeah,
haven't heard anything, by the way, so I don't know anything yet. I look forward to that. And
yes.
I've reached
I've
out
been
to Jeff now to say he needs to come sing with me at my church now. Paul has been on him. So I'm like, Jeff, you have time to come sing at church.
That would be great. He's seriously studying voice again, so nothing like a
Great.
great second base to join you, right?
Absolutely. We all take that. So, well, let's see. So I know where everyone is except for Kristen. And Kristen, I know we've encountered each other before. So Martha Graber is at Central St. Paul, and Sue is at Blaine High School. Rebecca's at Wayzata High School, and Karen's at Minnehaha Academy. And where are you, Kristen?
I'm at Discovery Elementary School in Buffalo.
Oh, yes. Okay, great. I love Buffalo. I've been through there a few times and done some things. What a nice community
Mhm.
up there. And so is everybody starting kind of, with the exception of Karen, who is going back in person at Minnehaha right away, is everybody else starting distance and then a hybrid coming soon? Or are you going right away?
That's the theory, but there's a school board meeting tonight to confirm that.
Okay, got it.
We are pretty much the first week we're going to ease in with a couple extra days of teacher ESP time and then a hybrid just for 2 days. But then the second week we're so far on schedule for elementary being regular in person.
Okay,
And
got
then
it.
secondary hybrid. So my school right now is slated to be in person. We have a chunk of kids that have already chosen distance learning or going the homeschool route. So that will make our numbers a little bit less, but
Yeah.
still kind of the full deal in a totally different package.
Exactly. Well, we'll send you all good vibes, both to you and Karen, returning to students in classroom right away. As an anecdote, my sister is an educator in Alabama, and it's the one time, and literally on the coast of Georgia. So we grew up in Georgia, and this is the first time in life she's like, it's the first time I've been prouder to say I'm in Alabama than Georgia. Her district really has got a good system where she's actually teaching in the virtual academy because she did contract COVID this summer, and she's like, I'm not playing with it. But those who are in the in-person, because of the virtual academy, the numbers are down. So she was telling me this weekend there's like 6 kids in kindergarten and 12 kids in 4th grade. It's like really manageable numbers for the physical distancing, whereas the virtual academy is like booming. You know, she's got like 30 kids in her classes. So I just start with that to say maybe by having people opting out, I know that we're still deciding what we're going to do for our son who's in 1st grade. That might help your numbers, thinking about elementary school. Kristen, speaking to you
Yeah.
right away.
And there might be more that choose, right now we have 40-ish, but there might be a lot more once the decision is made that decide, yeah, nope, we're going to stay home, or,
Yeah. And how large is your school in general in the normal times?
My school is the smallest. It's a school of choice, so it's only around 250, 260. It's so it's a by lottery. multi-age school, community-based and multi-age. So
Excellent.
families choose, anyone in the district can go, but it's a lottery system and they choose to go there. So I'm
Okay.
fortunate. I see the kids every day. Music and Fight is every day at my school, but we're going to change that to every other day this for now, just so we don't see so many kids,
Right.
in a day. I just
That
seen
you're already on the right track, it sounds
a lot
like,
of bodies.
in
So
my mind. Yeah. So you have your own room then. I just want to clarify that too.
I do, and it's a big room because it originally was the high school in Buffalo, so it was a band room originally. So it's actually probably maybe the largest music room it's probably even bigger than the new high school one.
Okay. And I've been
Anyway,
in that high
it's,
school room.
it's big, so that
So,
helps.
yeah. Well,
But
that
no
means
winter.
we're all in the same playing field here then. And Aaron's just joined us. If you don't know Aaron, Aaron's at Minnesota State University up there in Moorhead. Hi, Aaron. Welcome. We're just kind of getting to know each other a little bit here. So it's nice that everyone has their own room. And so we can think about, and I'm going to let you all drive the conversation. I'll facilitate and jump in and move things forward. I think that might be a great place to start when you're considering returning to in person, whatever that looks like. If you have your own room, you have a lot of agency for how you can, take care of that room. Now, you're shaking your head, Sue. Are you going to have to share your room this year now?
So I've never had my own room.
Oh,
Choir is taught in 3 different classes. There are 3 rooms in the music department at Blaine.
uh-huh.
2 of them are like kind of 1970 traditionally poorly built rooms, and the other
Oh,
one is a storage room. Whoever has the least amount of students in the hour takes the storage room
wow.
classroom.
Okay.
And so I actually operate out of all 3 rooms when we're in person. We've done some numbers and we don't think any of them are actually conducive. Maybe
Mm-hmm,
some orchestra in very small groups can happen in the larger ones.
mm-hmm.
So we're looking at commandeering the
The
auditorium and the
auditorium.
cafeteria.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then we don't know what to do. We think the board is going to put the high school, the secondary education on full distance learning until the end of September. We think that's what's going to happen tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, it will reevaluate and we'll figure it out. But one of the reasons that's happening is not necessarily the COVID numbers, but because nobody can figure out how to make this work with the large populations and this crowded. Also, 2 of our high schools, mine and Amy Johnson and Rick Geiger at Coon Rapids, are under massive construction right now.
Oh,
Massive
so you don't have
construction.
lots of
They're
other
like torn apart,
spaces.
yeah. So we have lots of those kinds of tricky things. It's where do they go for after the 30 minutes? Where can we put them? We don't have a tank for them. So
Yeah.
things like that's why I wanted to come in and see, like, what are people doing? I mean, some people I
Mm-hmm.
know have nicer rooms than I will ever have. I'm also not super high on the idea of us like trading rooms all the time and getting each other's aerosols. I think we each need to kind of own a space somehow. And so I'm curious to see how people are navigating that in places where there's, whoever has the ensemble that hour goes in the room, right?
Right. And you all are all teaching concurrently then. So band, orchestra, choir, you're all lobbying for those spaces at the same time, teaching at the same time.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. So it's interesting that just jumping in with that, I think you're on the right track thinking about, can you commandeer the cafetorium? Can you commandeer the auditorium? Could your auditorium be 2 spaces in one? The performing arts aerosolization study, I thought they were wise in saying it doesn't matter how large your space is, you should still abide by the 30 minutes and let the air change rule. I mean, I think that's really great wisdom right now since we don't know what we don't know, right? But I bet if the space is large enough, and I'm thinking about some of the other ones in Anoka Hennepin, like Champlain Park, their auditorium, because I can see that one in my mind's eye, you could have 3 things going on in that space. It would be an aural disaster perhaps, but you have enough physical space where it could carry the aerosol load of students just physically being in there, maybe not singing, but being in there safely with the size classes you're thinking of. So that would be my first strategies is take September to kind of scout the rooms and talk to administration to see, hey, we've got to have spaces after we engage in music making of any form to let the room rest. You know, where is that space going to be? Are we going to the library? I mean, what is it? And get them thinking critically about that too. Anybody else have thoughts on that? By the way, want to jump in?
I'm just thinking like in our auditorium, you have the lobby area, if there can be, I mean, that's a little bit more separate if you close the doors. And if there's a balcony area, again, there's the sound issue, but the lobby might be one area to sort of somewhat close off. You could open the doors that go outside.
Mm-hmm. And Kristen, I'll say, you said something really, you just said it as part of a sentence, but I'll throw in my bias. I think in this time, acoustics is the least thing on our mind. It's like we want the most usable space, right? And so for everybody, you know, kind of get out of what we used to go for, and we've got to just go back to square one of where's a usable room, you know, and can we access that usable room, even if it's the least desirable room aesthetically. It might be the best room from a safety standpoint. So that's just something to throw out there as you're thinking about possible spaces. What are your, this is really radical and stinky. What are your, their changing rooms like in the gym and stuff like that? Are they going to be having PE? Are they going to be changing? Do you have big spaces in there? Okay.
They're not going to change in Anoka Hennepin for Fayed. They have to just come in their Fayed clothes and live in them all day. They're not allowed to go in the locker rooms, period.
Interesting. Okay.
We haven't even talked about that.
Yeah,
I got
that's just
that
one of those
from the
things, right?
Fayed people. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Mm-hmm.
We're still wondering, and I mean, I don't even know that our principal knows. I'm assuming that nobody is getting in the building, but we don't know that for sure because we like the women's swim has not been canceled. So are they coming in and using the pool?
I have kids in St. Louis Park who are going to swim practice right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know that there are certain now at 3:30, there are people coming, there's directions on the front door to go to a certain door to get into the building. So, you know, we were asking a lot of this morning about, you know, fairness here. If sports are allowed to be doing certain amount of things, and why is that not extending to also co-curricular and having access to buildings, especially if we do have room space? And then layered onto that is just what equipment is happening, or are you having to come up with on your own when you're in distance learning for masks for students? Is anybody investing in singing masks, shields, all of those things?
If we can jump into the singing mask for a second, I don't know if you all, I actually haven't been on Facebook a lot recently, but I did get the most recent post this weekend about the resonance mask, and they are not testing well so far. So it's a lot of money to spend, and it has a lot of space, right? But the gaps that they talked about in the aerosolization studies, there's leakage. And so I'm finding the best. I've actually just been going out buying masks and trying them out. I mean, from my lay person's perspective, those masks that you buy that are surgical style, the higher quality ones from Target and places like that with the multiple layers seem to be our best bet if you can keep them on and they fit. You know, they need to have those multiple layers they talk about. They need to be a tight fit. So we are not, at Vocal Essence, we are not providing masks. We've given like a set of instructions about what the mask should be. And then when we get to our first set of rehearsals in a couple of weeks, we'll kind of check them out and make sure everybody is up to par. And then we'll have some on hand to give them if their mask is not deemed to be appropriate. That's the thing that I'm the most, most concerned about.
Philip, I have two questions about that that latest thing. I've been trying to find the footage of that webinar. That it looks like somebody posted slides from something that was recently shared and I cannot find it. Did you have any luck?
You know, I have not dug into it. In fact, I'll share this with everybody, the Facebook post. I literally got that post and I just shared that as information yesterday, Karen.
Yeah.
I've not had time to dig into it myself to learn more.
Okay. Well,
Um,
I messaged Paula because I know she was tagged in it and I didn't know if that meant she would know more about it or she could ask whoever tags her in it and to chase it
Yeah.
down a little bit because I am interested in seeing it. It seems like they had some slides that were from, you know, the second release from the Colorado study and the webinars we've already seen, but then there was more information about the apparently some testing of the singing mask. So that's information that would be very
We need
helpful
it.
to see the
I'm gonna
source of.
share my screen here with everybody since you're talking about it, Karen. I just put it in the chat for you all. And so this is the study that we're talking about here. And so I need to do some more digging into this just to know. But down here at
Yeah.
the bottom, it says every singer's mask tested to date has performed poorly according to our standards.
Okay.
And so that's the concern. And as
And I will
Karen's-
say, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go for it, Karen. I was just putting the slides up so people can see them here.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone else has been able to try a singer's mask on. I got my hands on one of the Broadway relief ones and found it to be very poorly fitting and uncomfortable. Like the gauge wire that went up over the nose was very heavy and hurt, and there was just tons of gaps. So as soon as I tried that on once, I'm like, nope, not that one. And then I have a resonance mask on order, but they're out of stock until September 15th. And then I have a third one on order that honestly at this point I cannot remember where I even found it, but it was one of those things that I just like quick bought one and tried to get it to be shipped as fast as possible. So I'm waiting on 2 more, and I'm just curious if anyone else has found one or tried one on or made one. And then the other thing I'll say as far as the surgical mask is that if you just Google or go on YouTube for how to make a surgical mask fit better, there's all sorts of nurses and dentists who show you how to fold it and tie these knots in the elastic and turn them a certain way so that they don't gap on the sides like they do when you just see people around out in the community wearing those. So that's going to be my kind of starting place for my choirs. I'm going to show them that, how to tie it so that when we go outside and sing, they have something that's tight fitting like that. And hopefully, I think, I mean, I've been seeing lots of students coming in. We've had orientation today. A fair number of them are just wearing their surgical mask, or I kind of thought about how could I give them ones, and because you can wear them multiple times, you know, until you like have issues with it, basically is my understanding. So I just wonder, you know, do I give one to everyone and say, this is your singing mask and here's how to tie it so it doesn't leak? And I don't know if that's the best way, but I hesitate to require a certain thing or provide a certain thing in case turns out to not be the right thing. And then where am I with that? So yeah, that was a lot, but any thoughts on the singer's mask, or if you've seen how to tie, just again, sorry, I'm not on my computer, so I can't put it in the chat, but if you go onto YouTube and look up how to make a surgical mask fit better, you'll find a whole lot of professionals showing you how to do it.
I'm curious about this. I think I would feel extremely uncomfortable singing, and I haven't tried it yet, but the tying the pantyhose over it thing, anybody try it?
I don't even know what that is.
Well, the scientist in the aerosol study, the scientist from Maryland was suggesting that was a good way to do it, to make the surgical mask get a tight fit, is to put on the surgical mask and then tie pantyhose around it so that you get that snug fit.
Oh,
It's a
I
cheap
missed that.
solution.
I missed that completely.
Yeah.
There we are. I think that's everything right there. So it's Donald Milton. I can reach out. I know who he is. So, okay. Sorry. I was just deep diving in front of you all there. Sue, if you can find that, I'd be interested to see that. I've only heard about the pantyhose in relationship to the instruments. I've not.
I think
paying
that
attention
came.
to that.
I think that came out of the MMEA session when James Weaver came on and did a session there. Because, or no, No, I'm confusing. Or was that the
Within the
NATS one?
second, it was in the second webinar on the
Okay.
aerosol study.
Yeah.
And the
I remember
scientist,
it.
the scientist from Maryland, she was pretty high on the idea of surgical mask plus pantyhose tied over it. And people were kind of giggling. And then there was a lot in the chat about it after that too. I think you were there, Karen. I'm pretty sure I saw it. Yeah, in there.
I watched it later a couple of times, and I must have just checked out on that little section.
Maybe.
I'm trying to visualize it now. It's like the
Right?
Pantyhose Bandit or something, you know. But I mean, I think it's something to consider. Why not take that first week that you're back in person? You know, if you have some things to experiment with, give it a shot and just see. The biggest thing, right, is keeping the mask on. So what I encourage everyone to do, even in a school setting, and it has a different function in the school than in a community setting, but to create some kind of covenant or some kind of agreement where you articulate the rules of engagement and how we're going to move forward with this. So for all of our ensembles, the youth and the community, the church and the adults, we have it's called a covenant. And it talks about the mask. And the biggest thing is that you have to keep your mask on at all times in the space. If you need to take the mask off, we have a place to go and do that, where we know that's the spot to go over. There's not 5 people in that space together. And it's only for a temporary moment, you know, like if you have a mask malfunction. I've had the Soda Singers together every other week throughout the summer in person. And then the opposite week we've been online. And that's been the biggest thing is they will wear the mask, but every now and then they want to pull it down and then they want to talk with it down. And that's what I think you're going to find the most in school is that they're going to have the face covering on, but they're going to want to pull it down. And you're just going to have to find a way to let them know once you enter my room, it's just got to stay on and it's got to be secured. And Kristen, with your elementary kids too, you know, figuring out a way to make that be friendly.
I kind of think so far our consensus is that we would only sing outside.
Without masks, or are you still going to use masks out there?
I think we'd still have masks on.
Good,
Don't you
yeah.
think?
Absolutely.
I don't know that has there been any, I mean, we wouldn't have for elementary kids appropriate masks like you're talking about. So I don't think there's any way even in a big space we could sing, is there, inside?
Well, it's a couple of things. It's your comfort level with the information that we've gotten from the aerosolization study. So they've given us a path to returning to in-person singing inside, where if you know, and this was some of what I was showing on the screen here a second ago, if you know the quality of filtration in your room, so you know how often the air changes in your room, you know that the filters that are filtering the air, excuse me, back up a second, you know that the air is not recycled air that's just being filtered over and over in your room, that it's drawing in outside air, fresh air into your space on a regular basis. That's enough to match the load of aerosols that we are putting into the room. If you can verify that and feel comfortable with that, they are saying that maintaining the physical distancing and being masked, you could sing in that space for up to 30 minutes, but then you need to let the room rest and let the aerosols clear and disperse for the amount of time it takes for your unit, your HVAC system, to complete at least 1 cycle of change, preferably 3. So, and that just depends on your space. And so I've gotten to know my facilities guys, and I've been reading and trying to be like that guy who knows a few terms, just enough to be dangerous, just so I can ask a couple of extra questions so they can't brush me off, you know, about different things. Today, my big thing was learning about there's an E1, an E2, and an E3 about these filters. And the E1 is the smallest size particles, the COVID size particles. And so my question back when they sent us a proposal was, so how does this filter work with E1 particles, you know? And it was enough to get more information from him. So I would say talk to your, and this is where it's tricky in public schools. I was a public school teacher, so I get this. I don't know who you go to. Is it your head facilities person on site, or is it someone at a district level? You got to find someone that can tell you what's going on in your room. And that way you can begin to do the calculation of, in your mind, is it safe to sing in your room, or is it not worth it to sing in your room? I mean, Aaron, you've been on a lot of these conversations and thinking about this. What are your thoughts on that? What have you been hearing from our colleagues across the country?
About checking with the, like, which people you check with?
Yeah, well, no, just about the making our own decisions about, based on what we've heard from the air civilization study, you know, when to engage singing in a room and when it's best just to sing outside and not sing inside.
You know, I don't know, you know, I mean, it just, yeah, I mean, I do talk to people all over the country, but it really just varies, you know, and I think that a lot of what you've been saying here has really been key. So it depends on what you have access to. At Florida State, they're taking their choirs over to the Tucker Center, which is where they play basketball. It's a convention center. And so like they have this big space and they're dividing it into fours, and like every 15 minutes, somebody's going to blow a whistle and they'll move to another part of this space, but they have access to that space.
Yeah.
I don't have access, you know, to anything like that. I know a lot of the elementary schools and a lot of the elementary school teachers I've been hearing talking about, we're going to go outside while the weather's nice. And of course, in this part of the country, it's not a luxury we have for very long. So what do you do after that? And what do you do, you know, how long are you even meeting in person? I was talking to somebody yesterday. It's like, I used to see my kindergartners 5 times a week. Now I'm going to see them 5 times in a month. I'm like, I don't even know what to say to that person. And everybody just has access to different resources, is what it feels like it has come down to. You know, whether you have a gigantic space or how new is your building, or, sorry, your dog is rude. Come here.
It's okay. My kids are screaming at the same time, so it's all good.
She's really upset. I went back to work today, was my first day. It just, you're right. It varies depending on what you have access to. What hit me like a ton of bricks today, I'm doing choir fully online. Why I didn't think about this, I don't know, because I'm a knucklehead. The number of people that have a campus class at 10 o'clock and have choir at 11. Where are we, Dr. Millard, where are we supposed to go sing? We can't come to the choir room? Like, no, I'm in the choir room. You can't come here. Well, where do I go? I can't go home. I have class at 12 on campus.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I
thought of none of those things. So that's the fire I'm going to be putting out today, is I have, you know, 70 people in a class, and like, okay, we're not meeting online, but I still need to find something. We're meeting online, but I still need to find something to do with you. Like
Right. Malachi's showing you his Ninjago creation
Yes.
there.
That is cool.
He slept in his bed the last 2 nights without bothering mom and dad, so he gets something from the
Yes.
secret stash.
Nice done.
Amen.
I am not
That is
above
cool.
bribery.
Wow,
Wow,
Elder
Aaron.
Johnson sang Itsy Bitsy Spider with me the other day on Google Meets.
I'm sorry, Aaron. I know what I think all of us are going to have that aha moment, though, right? We're going to think we've planned everything, and then boom, something's going to hit us
How
hard.
did I miss that? Like,
And it's not unlike what many of you are going to find with your students at home, as you probably experience in the spring. Some of them, if their parents are working, they're like, I can't sing. And so it's like, where do you go to sing from home? Yeah. You know, these are the things that are hardest to figure out. And Kristen, just coming back to it, I think it is that your comfort level. I do believe it's safe to sing inside with the right things in place. I shouldn't say safe. I think it's a risk that I'm worth taking, that you know, I mean, there's enough in place with the right space. And when I know the space and know the people in the room and how I set them up, that I'm going to take that risk. I would never say it's safe, though. I have to keep catching myself. We all know that we're accepting some risk in this.
I do know that they're upping the air exchange to the most that it can do.
Good.
So usually we're on, you know, whatever, efficiency or, you know, low cost exchange, but now they're doing it as much as the system can. And that was updated a few years ago. So even though I have a really old building, hopefully. So that's a good question for me to ask, though, a follow-up question. So
And if you want the questions to ask, you know, you can reach out to me afterwards. You can also look online. It's a lot of people who have it spelled out, but I'm happy after this meeting another time to send those questions to you to ask. It really comes down to everybody is what is our HVAC system? Is it drawing in outside air? And then how often is it drawing in that air? I've just learned the other day there's a pandemic button on a lot of machines now, and that whole thing is to draw in more outside air. So, and then what are our filters like, and how often are the filters changed? You know, what are the filters? The MERV rating, you'll hear a lot about that now, MERV.
Ours is 8. And I saw the recommendation from the study was 13.
It is. So 6,
What
believe
does
it or not,
that mean?
6 is the industry standard acceptable before COVID. I can tell you, hang on a second, Sue. I think I still have that PDF
Okay.
open. I just found this morning. If you all bear with me, I'll find it and pull it up here. I downloaded this PDF talking about that, and I put it in my COVID. I never thought I'd say these words. I have a COVID folder on my desktop.
We all do, Philip. We all do.
Like it's just all things COVID that I collect from all the protocols that I've had to be writing here. Here it is. Okay, I'm going to share this with you all. So, give me a second. I'm a little clunky today in my shares. So this talks about bypass air, because my question was when they say, you know, the filter doesn't allow any air to bypass. I was like, well, what does that really mean? So here you are. 1 is the least efficient at removing airborne particles, whereas 16 is the most efficient at removing airborne particles. And this is what I was telling you about, what I learned about the ASHRAE test about very fine particles or coarse particles. But here's what I learned that surprised me. If you look at this third paragraph, in a typical commercial building, it recommends a filter of 6 as the minimum. Although more recently, they're saying 7 to 11 to provide good system cleanliness. A lot of the buildings that I've been are around a 10, and the systems are designed where they can't take, you can't just put in a higher MERV rating filter, because then it'll clog the system apparently and disrupt the way the air flows through it. So you need to get to know how the system works. But I'm happy to put this PDF in the chat if you want to read the whole thing. It talks about what happens when air bypasses the filter and how the dust accumulates and all that stuff.
could you just say again, I didn't catch who said it. Someone said 13 is recommended. Maybe Martha said that, or
That was what they recommended in the aerosolization study.
for singing. So 13 would be the safer.
It removes, yeah, they're saying a MERV 13 filter really removes so many particles that it feels better, that the air's gonna be cleaner. But what this was telling me today was you could have a MERV 13, but if it doesn't test well in this ASHRAE test for E1 particles, then you're missing all of the COVID particles anyway. So you could have a MERV 13, but if it doesn't pass this test here, you're not catching those things that we want to catch. So this added to my knowledge today of another question to ask was, what about, this is the American Society of Heating and something, that test there. I'll plop this in the chat so you all can read it. It's just 2 pages.
Okay.
And it was in layperson's terms, so I understood everything about it. And I am the least like tech person when it comes to like air stuff. You know, when it comes to fixing like handiwork on my house, I can do it with my hands. Electrical things, I call somebody. You know, just make it better. Kristen, have you had a chance to watch that yet? The big second webinar that they did about the, okay. I'll drop that link in here too before we get off the call. It's an hour and 17 minutes, but it's worth it to watch it and just to see all the things they're talking about, because it really filled in a lot of gaps for me as to what we're learning related to performing arts. Yeah, this is your biggest concern going back, everyone, isn't it? It's really the space. I think you all can adapt your teaching, right? Practices and figure that out. But it's like, how do you make the space work? And the other thing that popped in my mind, Kristen, was when we were talking about just singing, and maybe someone might want to jump in. If you're stuck with your space, is there a way you can structure your class so that, and it's not a, as I say it, it doesn't sound like it's even great, but it sounds like maybe an alternative. Some people are singing while some people are doing something else. Now we're all in the same space, so we're still going to have this particle exchange, right? But if we're introducing fewer particles into the space at a time, as I understand it, it's going to take less time for the room to turn over. So if you have 30 singers, you know, do you divide them into thirds? And I'm just totally being abstract, right? Do you divide them into thirds and 2 of the 3 groups sing in the day, and the rest of the time they're working on something else to support what they're going to sing? You know, they're solfeging, they're doing takadimi or something else. I don't know. I'm just trying to throw, like, is there a way that you can think of using the time block to get people singing in smaller chunks if you're really concerned about the size of your room? Going back to my original thing that I threw in, you're all still in the same space, so we're all still breathing in the same particles. So there may be a gap there, but just throw that out for you all to kind of talk through some.
I'm playing just a little catch up. I've seen different things about humming. What's the decision on that? Is that any better or not any better?
They had not tested it at the second study when they released the results, so they didn't have data. As I understand it, though, it's still releasing the particles, right? Oh, something changed there. Oh, Martha just went on. my screen turned around there. Sorry.
Oh, sorry,
so-
how'd they do that?
It's okay. It's not you. It's Zoom. Zoom does weird things. So
Okay.
I am, so we're having outdoor services at our church. And so I have said to folks, you know, hum quietly, because we're really physically distanced. And I'm like, you can hum quietly. And I feel like that's okay outdoors. If we were indoors, I probably wouldn't say that. So I think the humming would be safer. Let's just think about it from a common sense standpoint. Your mouth is closed. If they've got the mask on, and we know the mask captures 90%, is what it just said a few moments ago on that slide, of the particle emission, then we're going to be less than that 90 or more than that 90% particle being captured, because we're not emitting as many particles. So I do think humming would probably be safe with mask on, physically distanced.
And
But
I would
it
add, I don't know if you saw the latest BBC thing that had that terribly misleading headline, but once you read it, you know what I'm talking about? It was just like, singing no worse than talking, but the main point
Yes.
that they make was that they were verifying that it's based on volume. So like a loud speaker
Right.
is emitting as much as a loud singer, which we already knew from the aerosol study, because they showed how a monologue from a theater
Right.
person was the same as a singer. So I was just like, well, that's not new information, and it's a really misleading headline. Thanks so much. But I think it's all just related to volume. So if you're humming quietly, that would be a quieter thing and less emissions.
Yeah, and the emissions are still coming out your nose in humming, which is, you know, the nose is
Right.
kind of a big vessel for COVID, but it's still coming out in a more gentle way. So it would, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, volume seems to make a difference. And we all know that we can control their laughter and their,
Because there will be no joy in COVID, right? There will
no
be
one's
no
gonna
laughter.
laugh loud or randomly sing loud or talk loud in a quiet room, right?
No
Right.
extra.
I did chuckle at that part about don't
I
let them
did
speak
too. I'm
loudly.
like, yeah, they're all gonna be gentle. They're going to keep their mask fully on. I mean, it'll just be like habitual, you know. I'm sure your singers never intended to do that with their masks, but I bet that they just couldn't help it, you know.
They can't help themselves. It's just
I
like
know.
I have a pool noodle, y'all. Like, I'm serious. I have 2 pool noodles, the 5-foot pool noodles, and they know I have them. Because so I'm a control freak in this situation, because no one's getting sick on my watch. So I have those little cones that you get for when you're doing athletic drills, and I space those out so people know exactly where they're sitting or standing at all times. There's no guessing. But the pool noodle is when they, not if they, when they get too close to each other, I whack them with love. Now, again, I'm not in school, so I can get away with it. But I whack them, and they laugh, and I laugh, and it's like, that's too close. You know what I'm talking? You don't play with me. So I think we're going to have to find different ways to, playfully reinforce the severity of this, because one of the things that I learned in writing our covenant was close contact. Let me back up a second. I thought if you were in the room with someone with COVID and you found out they had COVID, then you just need to go into quarantine. You're done for. You just need to go into quarantine because you might get it. And as the CDC has determined it, if you are properly physically distanced, masked up, and you don't get in close contact with them, which is you're sharing utensils, you're, kissing or hugging or touching, you're outside of the 6 feet and you're masked up, then you're not close contact. So we can be in the same space with someone who has the virus, and if we maintain the physical distancing, they're saying under normal circumstances, it might not spread. So that's why I'm trying to get our singers, the young singers especially, to understand the importance of it, because they want to do it, but it just gets the best of them. They love each other so much. They can't help it. They really can't help it, being around each other so closely. So the high school teachers, I think you're going to find that the most. Kristen, having a 6-year-old, I would say that with the 6-year-old, the little kids, as you know, it's not that they can't be distanced, it's just they're erratic. 1 minute they're spaced and the next minute they're ramming into each other. And so I think that's going to be the biggest thing with them is, if I were an elementary teacher, I think I would always sit down. Like I would have them seated on those mats or whatever and spread really out. And we would do some soft singing and do lots of body percussion. And, there's all kinds of other things that you could do to just sing for 2 minutes at a time, and use the rest of the time with other musical ways of knowing, and just intersperse a little singing here and there. And my gut tells me with the room that has proper ventilation, you'd be okay. And just keep them on their mat. They come in and sit down, and then they teach them how to wipe in with them. We're giving everybody wipes. So they wipe into the room and they clean off their chair, and then they wipe out on the way out. I mean, that may be extreme, but that was one of the recommendations, was that you should clean your workspace coming in and sanitize it going out. And so we're employing that with our singers too. And then I have hand sanitizer in a bottle with a squirt gun that I carry around. It's the best thing ever, because they walk up to me and it's like, hands, I spray. So no one has to touch anything. They come in the room. Psh, psh, psh. And actually we've been singing outside this summer. So they come into the circle and I spray. And we've been eating together. This is the only group that I let eat together because it's a part of SOTA. We have to feed them because we meet at dinner time. And otherwise, don't mess with food. Just don't mess with it. No exchange of food, but it can work. I can tell you how we've done that. It's been successful.
Do you just have it like grab and go? So it's all prepackaged and they take it and they go and sit in their space?
Yep, it's
And
box.
once they're in their
box meals.
designated personal space?
Yep, then they can take their mask
unmask
down and eat,
Mhm.
and the mask goes back up. And we sit in
Yeah.
that space and we talk to each other. I mean, I'm not going to lie, they talk to each other, but I've got them spread out 10 feet apart.
Okay.
So, it's just, again, keep your voices down, talk to the person next to you, don't talk across the room. It's not
I
perfect.
was just thinking about our APs that haven't figured out the cafeteria yet,
Yeah, box lunch is the way to go, if they could pre-package it. And so we historically order from places like Devani's and Jimmy John's anyway. And so we just get that box and they have their own box. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you-
go ahead, Martha.
Just one of the things I just sense from talking to my administration, and we know that our arts leads downtown, they just have no idea, and they're not studying all of these things. And if anything, I think we have to present what we believe is reasonable and fair, with bearing in mind too that we each have our own HVAC systems in schools, etc. And that's probably through our custodian, or our head custodian, that we have to get information. But I think they're waiting to get recommendations from somebody. And from our vantage point, it really needs to come from singers and folks like you that are already navigating it and have set up parameters and rules, and you've made your covenants, and that these are recommendations that you could give to us as we look towards trying to plan for more face-to-face encounters. So anything that you can provide us that says, this is how we're operating, and this is the, we followed all these guidelines, this is what we're going to do. And we'll trust you, hopefully, with that as a guideline.
No, that's helpful to hear because, let's see, I'm doing something with Minneapolis soon, but it's not related to COVID protocols. But I'm glad to hear you say that, because I can reach out to, like in St. Paul, to Robin and Jan, who know me, and say, here's what we're doing at Vocal Essence.
That would be awesome.
And I've been leaning on University of St. Thomas in addition to CDC and MDH. Since I'm on the adjunct faculty at St. Thomas, I get all their emails. And so I've been really impressed with how they've been handling the situation. So I do encourage everybody to visit their website. They have their whole For the Common Good pledge is what they call it. And they made all their students sign that if they were going to participate in in-person activity. And it's really great language. It's like, we're going to mask up, we're going to space out. Like, it's really written well and approached well. And I think that's the key, is that it's not so punitive or so laborious to read that people just check out. What are you, I'm curious, are you all, I'm coming back to you again, Erin, since you're on campus. So they're living in the dorms, but are all the classes online right now at Minnesota State?
No. So I guess I just thought more of them were than are. So each professor has the option to deliver whatever format they want. So with my choirs, I went fully online, because what I don't want is, if we get shut down for in-person learning, I don't want that consistency interrupted. So I might be being overly cautious, but I just want to have a consistent experience for them. My other two classes, I am meeting in person, but I have the ability to space them out appropriately or take them outside with the other ones, with the other activities where we would need a little bit more space. Students did come back to campus. We do have students living on campus. I think because there aren't as many students coming back to campus, those people that wanted a single room, or, that was very much available to them, rather than having a roommate. But they have to have a mask on at all times in every class. If they have some sort of medical reason that they can't wear a mask, it has to be documented through this special service through the school. And it's like any other accommodation. It has to be documented. There's hand sanitizer and wipes and masks. I mean, everywhere. I mean, there's multiple of them in every room. We've scheduled time in between classes where in between every class, there has to be at least 30 minutes before the next class can be scheduled in there, so that room has time to circulate. And so I think that's where we are with that.
Yeah, that's helpful. And you know what, they give us all the ideal, like the best case scenario, right, in the aerosolization study, but we're in real reality. So again, thinking about your class schedules, I think about you, Sue, who's got the 3 rooms, right, you're dealing with there. Can you do, like Erin was saying, can you make sure you've got sanitation stuff there, sanitizer, take care of the room, clean it, devise your class so that you build in automatically time for the room to sit. So if your classes are scheduled back to back, can you end the singing activity 15 minutes early and then start it 10 minutes late in the next class? So you built in 20 minutes, 25 minutes. I know that means you probably only have 15 or 20 minutes to sing, right? But maybe you have to build it into the blocks that are there. I mean, it's not ideal. Kids are walking into other kids' aerosols, but it might be the best case that we have is to just stop early, let the room sit. As the new kids come in, let the room sit, and then begin singing. And you kind of build in your own air exchange. And we just pray and keep our fingers crossed that that's enough.
So are you hearing that because this has been one of the things that I can't figure out. Are you hearing that as long as we stop singing, if we just like sit in our space, that's letting the room sit?
I think in an ideal setting,
have
you'd
to
want
get
to
out.
move. I think in an ideal setting, you want to move, right?
Get out,
That,
right?
that's ideal.
Yes.
You want to leave the
That's
space.
what I thought. I thought it
Yeah.
was get out of the room.
Yeah. Ideally, you want to leave the room, but I'm dealing in coming back to practicality of
Right. Like where the
What if-
crap you put the kids is where we're at with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
what if you can't leave the room?
Right.
You know, and so is that where you sing in a certain portion and they all go? I'm just throwing abstract, crazy things against the wall now, right? Because I'm a
Right.
wacky guy like that. What if they all then go to the corners of the room and they're all facing the corners doing something for the next 10 minutes, you know? Like, I'm just trying to think of how can you make the best of a bad situation? Because I don't know if your school's going to let you walk the halls like I used to do with my middle school choir when they would upset me. And we would just go walk the halls for a few minutes and then come back and sing. You know, these are back in the days when I didn't really know how to teach my first couple of years. I would try anything and everything. But, you know, so I don't know.
feel like
Can you just leave the room? I don't know if that's possible or not. It would be great if you could just go outside for those 15
No.
minutes, right?
Yeah.
And then come back in.
I feel like this question came up directly at the MMEA session on the study. I don't
Mhm.
know if any of you were there, but yeah, no, and they clarified, no, you have to leave because then
That's
you're
what I
upping
thought.
your number of minutes in the room, you know,
Yep.
and they're saying
Hmm.
you can't be in the room for longer than that. So if you ask that of the study people, yeah, they would say no, get out of there.
Yep. No, and again, they are wise, right? Because think about their perspective.
Mhm.
They're trying to put out recommendations that are gonna, you know, minimize cases, and they don't want to have anything come back against them. None of us want anything to come back on them, because this is the only chance we have to return to in-person singing. So, you know, could it be then? So let's just play this out again to be a little more truthful to the letter of the law. Could you leave and have a deal with another teacher colleague, you know, in the gym, for instance? Can you go and sit in the bleachers?
I was thinking about the field house balcony. I mean, we have, our building has space problems on a good day, and it's under construction. So
Yeah.
frankly, until we can't, our only choice is going to be outside.
Hmm.
That's where we want to be until we can't.
Yep.
It's what do we do when we can? And the band director's like, we're going to put up a big canopy outside and leave it up all year. And I'm like, dude, that's not happening.
Sounds more
You
wacky
can
than
make
me.
that happen good. All the canopies are claimed in America right now. Probably by choir directors.
Can you get a bonfire going? Like how far can we play this out? I mean, we're Minnesotans. Could we tough it out there? You know,
Honestly, though, you know, in all seriousness, there are kinds of weather in Minnesota you can go out in. There are kinds of weather, even in winter, you can go outside in
mhm.
if you have shoveled space.
Yes, that's
you
right.
know,
Shoveled space. Yes.
Like tennis courts,
Yep.
you know, it's like bundle up if you want to come in school in person on the hybrid day.
Hmm.
Bundle up for choir.
Well, you know, my
But-
kids here in St. Louis Park, they tell us unless it's negative something, they have a number there, they're going outside for PE.
And they're wearing shorts.
And as a Georgian, I was like, what? They're going out every day? Okay.
Yes.
And they did.
Yes.
So I think, I mean, we laugh at it, but for a few minutes, for 20, 30 minutes, maybe, I mean, it might be hard as heck to sing, but
We'll be able to see the aerosols in the winter.
the mask might freeze. In fact, me with all the sweat that I have, I would have frozen icicles on my mask.
There'll be a
I
pantyhose.
have a question
Hmm.
about in cold weather, in frozen weather, how far do they travel? Do
You
they travel
know,
as-
that's a good question. And I think it obviously it still travels. If we
Mhm.
go back to our science classes, because of the density, you know, the weight of the particles, they won't travel as far.
Mhm.
They're gonna, I wouldn't say they disperse as quickly, they're gonna fall more quickly. But I think we have to assume the same distancing just to be safe. Yeah, that's a good question for a scientist. because my hypothesis would be that the aerosols would not last as long in the air because they would get in and mix in with the cold air and they would be pressed down. But again, what do I know? I'm a musician. I have like 3 music degrees.
I think your idea, though, is still good with starting the class more quiet and ending the class more quiet, because that's got to help some, I think. Yeah, and then if we can leave, that's good. But I think that's a good plan, sort of an extra protection, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. You know, the thing that hit me the hardest was even in returning to in person, we still have to abide by that same wisdom we're giving everybody who's doing online distance. You need to plan to accomplish maybe 25 to 35% of what you would normally have planned, you know. And so with, again, just full transparency with Vocal Essence, you know, we've got these big choirs, one big one. We've broken our chorus, our volunteer chorus, up into pods. We did a survey and looks like 70 of them want to return to in-person singing. So they're going to be in 6 different groups of 12, 3 per part ideally. And those 12 will be in a space at a time, and then the room sits before another 12 shows up, and not everyone's going to rehearse every week. They're going to be mixing between in-person week, online week with Zoom, and back and forth. And for our concerts, which are streamed programs, they will each do 1 song, and then we'll do the virtual choir things that they'll record online, and we'll produce those. And that's, I mean, I just feel like it's going to turn in, because no one wants to watch a 2-hour online concert, right? So we realize we've got to have like 45 to 60-minute concerts, and we're just cutting back on what everybody does, but at least everybody gets to be engaged in a meaningful way, and we're not stressing out trying to prepare too much. So I would share that with you all too, as you think about returning to in-person activity. Don't feel like we have to do the same amount of activity that we've done in the past. I mean, Diane Haney at our last conversation last Thursday was just liberated by the fact that she doesn't really have to do performances. And she's just excited to just, you know, be able to explore and make music. And so you have to decide for yourself, you know, and maybe for your school, but what's most important right now? You know, what are the core values that you really care about, and lean into that. If a performance really doesn't mean much, don't go through the trouble of doing a streamed concert. You know, maybe just capture the moments with pictures and things like that, and then you can, you know, share some of that in the slideshow or something with parents who want to see some things later. Or if your kids really want to be gung-ho about, you know, performing in different ways, you know, go with it. I would say really talk to them, especially with the high schoolers. You know, talk to them and get a sense for, in addition to what you want to do, where are they at on this? Because we all have a lot of emotional trauma. And these high school kids are really going to come back with a lot of trauma, and your space is going to be the space where they can really unpack some of this. So be prepared. And I know you all know this, be prepared to take some time just to talk with them and help them, you know, emotionally cope with what we've been living with for the last 6 months, and how it's still not back to any sense of normalcy. I think that's really important.
We don't have a timeline, and I think that's really hard on everybody right now. And I know that, you know, I mean, teenagers take things so, you know, everything is extremes. They see everything in extremes in their world, and I know that that's going to be a thing, because they can't see a timeline on it yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a far cry from March, when we all thought we'll do this for a few weeks, no big deal. Like, I don't know why we all thought that, right?
Yes.
I was like, I can do this for 4 or 5 weeks.
Sure.
Sure.
Down for 2 weeks and they were good to go.
That was 147 days ago. I know, because of Take 5. Like, I remember I was like, I can do this little live stream for a few days. And just think about how much time has passed and how much we've experienced. So that trauma thing is one that I hadn't thought about a lot until the last 2 or 3 months, when I've been processing my own feelings and then looking at my kids. Even my 2-year-old feels it. Like, I can see that she feels it, because she's like, she loves her brother, but she needs her own space too. And we're all here with each other. So something to think about there. What else is on your minds? I've just let you know about 10 minutes. I do have to be prompt on this one because I got to run straight to my evaluation session with the kids. Yeah. So, and I would let you stay on, but I've got to use Zoom again. Go figure. So is there anything else popping up on your minds, Rebecca? Yeah.
I have a question for Erin. What did you do today, Erin? How did you start out? I'm curious.
Well, my elementary methods class, I went over the syllabus and the schedule so that they would know what to expect. And then one of the first things I do with them is a silent activity. I model one for them, like here's a little activity, and they can't talk at all. And it's just put a point on the fact that some of you all talk entirely too much when you give directions, and I would like to make the point that you don't have to speak at all. So I do a little take 5 activity that could be used to show either 5-4 meter or form. With my conducting class, I ask them to just be gracious, and it's like, can I not give you a schedule right now? I just want to get you on the podium, and I don't know how long I have to do that. Can you just roll with this for a month or so? We can analyze later. I just want you to get up here and see what it's like to move your hands and somebody makes some sound. And then my university choir, which is my Y'all Come choir, it's over 60. I did a Zoom call with them because we're going to be fully online. And I tried to take the time to explain to them why I had made the choice that I had for them. That, I wanted it to be consistent. I didn't want to be interrupted. I didn't want us trying to figure all this technology out later. And I, in just layman's terms, broke down, like, these are the 3 reasons I choose not to sing in person. This is what our semester is going to look like. This is what you need. This is what I'm going to do. Stuff is going to go wrong. And this is what class is going to look like. And 45 minutes into this, somebody types into the chat bar, wait, so there's no in-person singing this semester?
Wow.
So now I'm really doubting my ability to explain anything well. And feel like maybe I need to go back to like my silent activity. Maybe there's some other way I needed to have explained this today because my words were not good. And my concert choir is doing their auditions. They're doing them fully online through Flipgrid. So I didn't meet with them today, but those are the 4 classes I teach. And that's how we stepped off today. With the in-person classes, they have an assessment they have to do every morning, and then they get a green code on their phone when they come in. And so I stood at the door with my hand sanitizer, and I traded them hand sanitizer for their green code.
Yep. It's exactly what we're doing with an automated form of the symptoms, right? Check the symptoms that you don't have any of these. Yeah, that's cool. Love it. It's not you, Erin, it's college kids.
I was like, I outlined everything I was going to say. I tried to really balance positive with negative. This is why I'm making this decision. If you see, because we have NDSU and Concordia within a 10-mile radius. If you see other high schools or other colleges doing something different, this is why I made this choice. And I felt like I had done a really clear and positive spin as much as I could. And then she just said, so there's no in-person choir this semester. And I just was like, I don't know anything. I don't know how to explain anything. I don't know my words.
That's what you want to ignore.
You
the chat.
became the Charlie Brown teacher after the first
That's
sentence.
what I felt like. I was like, I don't think I'm saying words that make sense. Is it, this feels like my first
that's how they
semester here
hear
all
it.
over again. When I would say things all the time and they would laugh at me, they're like, nobody says that here because I'm not from this part of the country. I'm from the East Coast. And I said, you saved my bacon one day, and the whole class fell out of their chairs. They had never heard that phrase before. And
If you can put it on Snapchat, they'll understand.
I do a lot of TikToks. I'm way late to that party, but I've been enjoying TikTok.
Oh, then that'll work too. You just put it
That'll
on there.
work.
My
love
whole day
TikToks.
was planned around TikToks today, but maybe I didn't have enough for university choir to explain why we weren't singing in person.
I love it. That's great.
Y'all, we're not going to meet in person this year because it's an awesome decision.
Yeah, so that was my day, and I put a picture on Facebook, and I was going to type Jesus take the wheel, and Facebook suggested Jesus take the whole car, and I was like, yeah, that's more accurate.
That works. Yeah, exactly. Here we go. Yeah, that's how we all feel. Oh my goodness. I would say just be so everyone's starting, at least other than Karen Luckin and Kristen, everyone else has time to kind of continue to figure this out. And so, let that time be your ally. Ask those questions now. And seriously, you see my thought process about the wacky stuff. Just put all the wacky ideas down that you can about your situation that you think might work. And you never know, one of those might be the one that leads you to the real solution. And continue these conversations, but know that someone else's, and you all are experienced teachers, so I don't have to say this, but know that someone else's solution may not work for you. We all got to create something that works for our rooms, our people, our situation, our schedules. And that's the hardest thing about this. There's no best practice right now. We're all just kind of trying to figure out what the most promising practice is for us. And to the two of you returning to in-person singing, I concur. Outdoor singing is fun right now. The acoustic is kind of tricky because you're so far apart. So the big thing is just don't let them oversing. And things that are more rhythmic work better. Shorter phrases work better outdoors. Has been my experience with the younger singers. And if they know something, this is the big thing. If they know a song already, it's much easier for them to sing comfortably and projecting. You hear the sound than when you're teaching them something, because all of the insecurity and stuff like that. So keep that in mind as you start off introducing this. But maybe you can find a spot near a brick wall or something where you get a little reverb or something coming back at you. I showed some pictures yesterday. We've been singing out in the middle of parks like Como Park and Minnehaha, and just where there's nothing to help you. But it's still been really rewarding just to sing together for a few minutes at a time there in those settings. Yeah. Oh, there's Karen. Hey.
Sorry, I tried that. You were talking to me and I left. I'm sorry. I was trying to turn on my camera.
That's okay.
And it booted me.
Do you have that mask? Because it'd be cool for everybody to see your little mask fit that you were showing yesterday. The way that you did the mask thing. It really was.
Oh,
I
shoot.
had not seen that before. Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, it's fine.
We're going to see how many masks you have at your disposal there. You should have
Okay.
a mask right there.
It's kind of ridiculous. So I do have like my little speaker that I'm going to wear around my neck.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to have this around. And I do have my AirPods on because I'm going to be Zooming to people who have chosen our distance option. And so I have to have my earpod in. Or AirPod, I can't call it the right thing, to run the sound to the iPad that's Zooming my classroom to them. And then when you go, again, just go to YouTube and ask how to make a thing that you basically end up tying a knot really close here. And then when you flip it inside out and kind of settle it in, it does this. And so it's now, instead of gaping on the side, it fits very nicely there. And it's away from my face so that I probably need to have a ponytail on. I'm learning right now. Get all my COVID hair out of the way so I can get this on.
Healthcare workers actually recommend that we tie our hair back.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll just be a necessity. But yeah, it's like, so you have it's very against my face. And if I breathe really hard, and actually when I have my little speaker on, I do sound like Darth Vader a little bit because my mic is inside, but it has the little foam on the outside of the speaker so that it cuts down on that wind noise. But yeah, this is how I'm going to start. And again, I might just give these surgical masks and have the kids tie them this way for when we're singing outside.
Mm-hmm. How much did that little microphone cost you, that personal amplifier?
This was about $65 on Amazon. And I just went and nabbed some. I wasn't going to wait for our tech people to source them for us. I knew I could get reimbursed later, so I just bought 4 for our department, and I need to turn in my reimbursement request, but I just went and bought it quick.
Yeah. I will say that's a necessity, I think, to preserve your voice, because I've been doing it without, and I do feel, and I have a real resilient voice, but I feel a little fatigued after wearing a mask for an hour and a half.
Today was already bad. Does anybody have some links that they would recommend of ones that they liked? Can I get a link to that one you have?
Yeah, what is that one, brand?
Yeah.
Yeah, day one, I could already feel that.
Yeah, right. Let me look.
Okay,
I'm on my phone, so I gotta open up my computer. Sorry.
it's all good. We'll hold tight. I'm gonna pull you off the spotlight now, so you don't feel like we're staring at you.
You were giving advice though to us in person. You said singing outside's good, except for, or just to make sure they don't oversing. And then what
Oh,
else
when
were
you
you
got
saying?
cut off? No, I was just
Yeah.
saying just watch for over singing and just suggesting that the music is more rhythmic, short phrases. The canons that we've been talking about, singing canons, a great way to get started. Their rounds and things like that, getting them going. Familiar is better than unfamiliar when you begin, just to get them comfortable. It's been
Sure.
my experience. And then play around with, when I started, I never let them face each other. They were always, staggered, facing in the same direction. We did some facing out where I was in the inside of the circle and they were all facing out. And so they don't need to see a conductor. That also worked well. Yeah, and the last week we were so far apart that I let them face in because literally there was like 40 feet in between us because with all the circumference of 10 feet apart all across the circle. And that was fun to see each other, but it was also the most difficult to hear each other. So I like the staggers the best when you kind of spread them out. So the way I think of it is, and sorry, it won't look good with my hands, someone's here and then 10 feet over the back row, and then the next row is staggered. So they're not standing in front of each other. No one's singing directly into anyone else's breath stream of air. So creating these little columns there. Yeah.
I'm looking to see.
Oh,
There's some. She-Do is the brand I have. It was $65. I would just kind of went on and read a bunch of reviews to see what people were saying about them. And this one I could return for free too, which is why I got it. I decided to not do the Bluetooth because I always fight with Bluetooth pairings and I just needed one less technical thing to go wrong. So
I just popped the Google page in there where you can see a bunch of different She-Do options there. So you all can source it
yeah.
and kind of go from there.
Oh yeah, looks like there's some even fancier ones than what I got. But it's the type of thing that oh yeah, it's I have the 18 watt. If you go to his link and then scroll down, I've got the one that's marked 18W portable wireless Bluetooth speaker. Oh, it can also be a speaker if you wanted to pair another device with it. I think it does have Bluetooth options, but I decided to have my mic wired in so I didn't have to deal with a Bluetooth not working.
Great. That was very
And-
helpful. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Well, I hate to cut off a good conversation, but I do have to go do my job now. I gotta go to work. So I will post this into our Music Lives Here roundtable, this recording. It'll be there, and then I'll save this chat, and then I can also, you can save the chat too if you want to, but that way we can put some of these items that we talked about in there as well if they're not already there. Feel free to come back tomorrow or Wednesday or Thursday. I have a feeling all the conversations are just going to kind of spiral and interchange, and that's whatever we need, we'll do it.
Thank you, Philip.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Be well, everybody. Bye.
You too. See you later. Thank you.